Hey everyone, it's 123 Baseball. Um, Back at it again this week for another two episodes. One reviewing the last week and last weekend, and then another one previewing the next week coming up. Had a big week this last weekend. SEC play opened up. ACC play is in full swing now with everybody playing. Had some good midweek matchups last week. Saw some things that didn't really think we would see. A lot of big ranked teams losing last midweek, and then had the SEC play opening up has just been. It was everything we could ask for. I mean, it was great all weekend. Great series. Some shockers in my opinion. With how some of those series turned out, especially with Arkansas going on the road and taking two out of three against Ole Miss. I thought Ole Miss was going to take that one, and then I was really surprised that Tennessee actually completed a sweep over Florida. I mean, Florida's a good ball club, just kind of manhandled FSU in the midweek that week. Sorry, Callaway, but it happened. But yeah, and then Tennessee kind of just dominated Florida all weekend. I mean, there was a couple moments where the games were close, and then Tennessee kind of just slowly pulled away. Pitching staff was pretty good all weekend. Any hot takes or takeaways from this past weekend?
No, man, just happy to be in the grind of the SEC season, right? That's the shtick is it's not a shtick because it's true, but it's just in the SEC it's every week. There's not really weeks off. In that league, it's 10 straight weekends of getting everybody's best and the best of the best, which is, you know, good things and bad things. Your RPI is always going to be high because you're going to play 10 of the best teams in the country, guaranteed every single year. So, no, it was good. Couple obviously ranked matchups, big time matchups, like you said, the Tennessee and the Florida series, which we can go ahead and get into. I mean, it probably doesn't get any better on paper than Liam Doyle and Liam Peterson on Friday night, right? That's about as good as it gets from a name perspective and stuff perspective. And while they were both good, neither one got out of the fifth. So if you ask both coaches, it's probably not necessarily what they were looking for. I'm sure they want a little more length out of those guys, especially when you know you're playing in that ballpark against both of those offenses. Tennessee did not disappoint, right? It's the whole thing of once you get in the conference, you figure out who you really are, and Tennessee went out and kind of dominated Florida from start to finish. I would say it wasn't a complete blowout, but watching the games, it just kind of felt like Tennessee was in control kind of since the first pitch of game one.
That's what
And
I
it kind
meant.
of
That's
felt
what I
that,
meant with that statement.
yeah,
I mean, the Saturday game it was close. I mean, it was a one run game going to the seventh, and then Tennessee puts up nine and run rules Florida in one inning. So I mean, like like I said, it it was closer than it was closer than a blowout, but Tennessee definitely was in full control at every moment. I felt like.
yeah, definitely. And it just, even in that one run game, you're like, all right, like now's their chance. Like Florida's offense really wasn't doing anything. Marcus Phillips kind of dominated them from start to finish in his outing. And then it just kind of felt like you're just kind of teetering the entire time. Like, can we string it out and get to the end? I don't know. And then and they couldn't. And then just like that, bam, Tennessee scores 9, the game's over. And it seemed like even on Sunday, when Florida's banged up a little bit, they're starting a guy coming off an injury. It's not you're not getting a full start out of Clemente there on Sunday, and he gets into the fourth, and you score a couple runs, and then as soon as you do, the Tennessee's coming right back at you, right? And it feels like the margin for error is so small when you play Tennessee. And I mean, that's what having as many good players as they do will do to you. And they don't even have A.J. Russell all the way back, who might be their best arm, to be honest, coming off an injury. So Tennessee could just keep getting better. I mean, 20-0, longest win streak after you win a national championship in the history of the sport. So that's pretty cool for the Volunteers. I thought freshman Aiden King was pretty good for Florida, stepping up for them with their Saturday guy coming into the year, Coppola, out with an injury. I thought he was pretty good. I mean, it was 93, 94, multiple pitches for strikes, didn't really seem super phased. And that's why it was 1-0 going into the seventh inning. And then it just kind of fell off the rails for Florida.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a heartbreaker, especially when it's a one-run game. You're going into the seventh inning. You're right, and so you're one swing away from tying the ball game, and you're a bloop and a blast away from taking the lead at that point. And when you give up a 9 spot, and then the game just ends, and then you have to come out the next day and play Tennessee again. I was really impressed by Florida's bounce back on Sunday. I mean, they were up 4-2 there early, and then kind of pitching staff, bullpen kind of just let it get away again. But I mean, McNeely looked fantastic this weekend.
Yeah, I saw him, saw Philpott, and I saw actually the kid Jackson Barberry that kind of gave it up on Saturday for Florida. I saw all three of them Tuesday against Florida State. Like you said, Florida State got dominated. They didn't look to really stand a chance. But Barberry was not very sharp for Florida coming out of the bullpen this time. I've seen what it looks like when it's good, and now we've seen what it looks like when it's bad. But McNeely was lights out. On Tuesday, he was lights out against Tennessee, and they just couldn't really get anything else going offensively. It wasn't a banner weekend offensively for Florida. Donay especially is struggling for them. He's having a hard time catching up to any velocity up in the zone. Maybe there's a hole there. I know that they kind of spread him out because he had a lot of swing and miss last year, a lot of moving parts in the swing. So they kind of spread him out, simplified it, but it just doesn't seem like he can get to any kind of velocity up in the zone. So they need him to get going for that offense to start clicking. But yeah, Florida's got, McNeely and Philpott are two elite upper 90s bullpen arms. They can only throw so many times in a weekend, right? So Florida, they need to get Coppola back to get them a little more length out of the rotation. That way you have to use McNeely and Philpott less. But it's a tough one. I mean, first SEC weekend, you got to go on the road in Knoxville to the number one team in the country. Like, you'd like to not get swept, but I don't think they played horribly. It just certainly didn't go their way. I think Tennessee just might be on that next tier of teams.
Yeah, especially when you have Nate Snead coming out of the bullpen, absolutely pumping pellets in there on a Friday night and closed out on Sunday as well for 2 saves in a weekend. We're going to move on here to Alabama and Texas A&M, the preseason number 1 overall favorites. Texas A&M gets swept by Alabama. We had this picked. We had Alabama borderline sweeping, definitely taking the series. That they ended up sweeping the series. I mean, A&M, it's the wheels kind of fell off. Like, even Ryan Prager had a bad weekend this weekend. Like, yeah, not every time your Friday night ace is going to come out here and shove. I know that it's baseball, but I mean, that's the game that you have the most confidence in. And I mean, you give up 4 in the first 3 innings. It kind of, as a hitter, it kind of just makes you a little more not as excited, I would say. I mean, your number 1 guy is coming out, giving up 4 spot real quick. And then, I mean, he ended up going 7. So, I mean, he kind of evened out there at the end to give A&M a chance. But Cade Snell homered twice this weekend. He's hitting .408 on the year, which is very impressive. Hodo homered twice. LeBron obviously hit another homer. Then Bama starting pitching this weekend went 17 2/3 with 1 earned, 18 Ks and 5 walks. That's borderline elite.
Borderline, some would say. Maybe not the best, starting rotation performance as Florida State. But no, it was pretty good. You know, anytime you can go on the road in the SEC and win a series is one thing, but to sweep a series, there's no better feeling than that. That's a tough place to play. That's a talented team. Every game was kind of in the balance late, and Alabama found a way to come out on top all three times. A&M kind of had some maybe miscues defensively that kind of gave up a little bit of stuff there. Alabama hit 4 home runs on Friday night. They're in another close one, and Odo comes up and hits a grand slam there at the end, which was absolutely electric. Talk about silencing a crowd there for Hodo. He's been really good for them. Justin LeBron's the best player on the planet. Zane Adams was really good. Like we said, the rotation was great for Alabama. Zane Adams and Riley Quick, who's got big time stuff on Saturday for Alabama. So both of those guys are exciting. And guess what? It doesn't get any easier.
You get Tennessee
this week, Alabama.
Tennessee gets to play away from Lindsey Nelson, though. I mean, I never thought it was possible. I thought Tennessee just plays every game there, but they're actually going on the road.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when they get out of that stadium, right?
I mean, Alabama.
I'm going to look foolish, though. They're going to go sweep Alabama and hit 73 home runs. It's probably what's going to happen. But
hey, Alabama's a pretty hitter-friendly ballpark, though.
We've seen it. We've seen it be a launch pad.
Joey Vetrano?
Good Lord. That guy made that place look like a little league field.
I think that weekend alone got him drafted. Yeah. At least 3 rounds higher than he was.
Yeah. Big Joey V was he was scary hitter to face that weekend.
That was a fun weekend. We'll move on. We'll move on. Arkansas went on the road to play Ole Miss. Took 2 out of 3 from Ole Miss. Ole Miss just let it slide away. It was my weekend pick. It was kind of the most one I was fringy about, and it cost me a 4-0 sweep of the weekend. You're up 4-3 or 5-4 going into the top of the 9th inning. They're on Sunday with a chance, 3 outs away, taking the series, and you blow it. And Arkansas comes back and takes that one away from Ole Miss. I mean, did you see anything over there in Oxford that you were surprised about, or maybe something that you were a little displeased with?
Well, I mean, if you're Arkansas, I mean, they won games in a way that we didn't know if they could win games. They actually out-hit somebody, which is exciting for Arkansas fans because they've just basically watched 2-1 and 1-0 games like the last 3 years. So maybe a little offense will change in that. Maybe they're starting to come alive there. They moved Zach Root to Fridays. First time out, not great. 3 innings, 10 hits, 7 runs for your Friday night guy. Not great. They lose that one. Bounce back in a big way the next 2 days and get the next 2. I think it was good, whether they won the series or not. Seeing them be able to put up numbers offensively, I think speaks more to what this team could do going forward. We know there's arms. Arkansas always has arms. Zach Root's not going to be that every single time. But it was just, could they score when they needed to score? And I think they kind of showed that, maybe there's a little more in the tank. I mean, they're the number 3 team in the country, right? So we're not talking about some team nobody's heard of. But to seeing a little life there from the Arkansas offense was very encouraging going forward, because I have pitching wasn't as great this weekend, but I'll have faith that Arkansas is going to pitch it until they don't, right?
Yeah.
So no, it was a big, like we said, anytime you can go on the road and win a series in the SEC, you did something, especially after losing Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to stay in the SEC for one last series to talk about just here a little briefly. Auburn and Vandy. I was impressed with Auburn this weekend. I mean, the grand slam hit on this was it I believe Saturday night.
So I think it was Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, it was Sunday. That's my bad. But yeah, Auburn with a grand slam on Sunday to take the series against Vandy. I mean, it was kind of a really kind of more of a first test that we're going to see for Vandy, see what they got in SEC play, and especially for Auburn. They haven't really played too many tough caliber opponents this year. I mean, they went over to Texas and they played a couple of decent teams over there. But I mean, anytime you get Vandy coming into town, that's a pretty good test for you. And I mean, they showed that they belong in the SEC and they showed they belong in the top 25. And I was thoroughly impressed with what I saw from Auburn.
Yeah, I'm not sure where people's heads were. I'm sure it was kind of felt a little even coming into this one. I mean, like you said, until you play some competition, some serious competition, 3 days in a row like that, you never know what you're really going to get. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, 2 outs, bases loaded, bottom of the eighth, 0-2 count. Max Ballou, ding, hits a tank, and to win a series that way is certainly, I'm sure, exhilarating for Auburn and just absolutely a gut punch there for Vandy. Who's been all over the country this year playing games, but yeah, I just think I'm just not sure about Vanderbilt. You know, some days they look like they're going to take a step, and then they take 2 steps back, and then sometimes it looks like guys are getting a little better, and then they just kind of takes a couple step back. And I just don't think, I don't know if they're going to have the consistency to win week in and week out in the SEC. I'm not sure what their carrying card is. I mean, like we talked about, Arkansas is usually, they're going to get it done on the mound. Okay, well then what can we do, offensive?
Well, Callaway, your team had a statement series win this weekend. You would tell me a little bit about what you saw from the Florida State Seminoles this weekend. I'm not sure if you were boots on the ground or not, but
we were there. We were there.
I figured.
Little Friday night action. You got to watch the big fella, Miles Bailey, go bridge a couple of times. I mean, he hits balls so hard and so far that TrackMan doesn't even pick him up. I mean, the freshman's been fantastic for them. But pitching is really kind of what the calling card is for the Florida State team. You got Joey Vellini on Friday night, big hulking figure, on the mound. 4 pitches for strikes, got the overhand curveball, solid. Taking over for Jamie Arnold, who missed last week with a sickness, so we're kind of getting him back on track. He was up to 98, probably the best pitcher in college baseball for my money. Maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm not, I don't know. So he was coming back from a little sickness thing, so he had a shortened start, but it was 8 punchies and 4 2/3 for Arnold. And then Wes Mendez, the Ole Miss transfer, was great in game 2 of the doubleheader. I think Jamie doesn't even have the best ERA of the 3, so that's when you're doing something right. But I mean, Drew Farreau at second base, hitting bombs. Gage Harrelson and Alex Lodis hitting 1-2 in the lineup, both hitting over 420. The big freshman, Miles Bailey, like we said, already has 6 home runs, I believe. So, anytime you pitch at a .7 on a weekend, 25 innings, 35 Ks, only 2 earned runs from the starters and the bullpen. It's a pretty good look. But, it's BC. Maybe we thought they had a little more juice. They took 2 out of 3 at Virginia last week. I was thinking maybe they had a little something. Wasn't too impressed with what they rolled out there. Florida State, we'll talk about it later, goes down to Miami for a rivalry weekend this weekend. So it'll be interesting. I think Florida State's a team you just got to watch. The schedule's not been very good thus far. I still have some question marks offensively if they can really do it against the elite arms. Because we saw them on Tuesday against Florida, against some pretty elite arms. It's kind of looked a little hopeless there for a little bit. So, yeah, I think for them, they're a team you just got to keep watching. And when the competition level ramps up a little bit, what do those bats look like?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's always kind of been a problem with Florida State. I mean, the pitching's always there, except for last year. Bats were elite over there at Florida State, 2 first rounders. James
They would.
Sibbs
They
and
could.
Cam Smith, they're very good. But yeah, it's kind of always been the calling card for Florida State. It's kind of just been, I mean, you get two or three weekend lefties, and usually they throw 88, 90. Now you got them throwing 96, 98. But
Yeah,
um,
a little more arm talent, a little more arm talent than no disrespect to Tyler Holton or Drew Parrish or those guys, but 98's a little better than 88.
hey, but do you get an elite changeup like Drew Parrish? I don't
Many
know.
don't.
I don't know.
Many don't.
But yeah, we're gonna stay in the ACC. Just briefly run over these last couple series we got here. UNC loses series at Louisville. It's kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, I knew Louisville was a good ball club. Kind of really haven't seen much from them this year. Had a couple early season, couple weekend wins. But then yeah, UNC after an impressive opening to the season has now dropped back to back ACC series. I mean, I don't know if that's kind of a maybe their scheduling at the beginning of the year wasn't as good as we thought it would be. And then they're finally starting to play their first two ranked teams and drop the series there. I mean, you got anything from UNC? I mean, it hasn't really been impressive the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think definitely not the start they wanted to get off to. I think the offense was kind of always going to be a question. They were going to have to play it a little bit like Florida State, like run prevention needed to be key for them, and the bullpen's been a little leaky. Been a little leaky for the Tar Heels the last couple of weeks. I think DeCaro and Patrick Forbes coming into it was a little must-watch TV. Patrick Forbes running it up there, upper 90s. I mean, electric stuff. DeCaro, obviously, solid all around pitcher, and Forbes goes 4 innings, and DeCaro goes 3 2/3. Neither gets shelled or anything. They only gave up 3, so not a great start. Not a way you want to start your weekend, right? Not getting out of the 4th for DeCaro and not going any further than 4 for Forbes. But yeah, Louisville. I mean, they got UNC at home, and they played pretty well. I think you're right. We haven't seen a whole lot of the Cards, but I mean, 15-3, you win 2 close ones, 8-7, and drop 6-4 on Saturday. Shut out UNC on Sunday and win 5-0 in Game 3 of that series. So yeah, I think some of these teams that maybe we didn't have our eyes on necessarily coming into the season, I think you just kind of sit back and watch and see how it's going to play out. But no, certainly not the way UNC saw conference starting. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody really saw that happening. I mean, to be fair, in UNC's perspective, it's 2 very tough weekend series. I mean, Stanford and Louisville is 2 very good top 20 teams. So we'll see if UNC can turn it around a little bit. But Hawaii, the Rainbow Warriors, take series against UC Santa Barbara this weekend. I'm impressed what I've seen from Hawaii this far. RPIs in the top 10. They've got some good arms out there. They've got some scrappy ball players. Also, do you like Hawaii this year? Do you think the host in Hawaii thing is going to come to fruition?
I sure hope so. Wouldn't that be electric? We might have to go. Who knows? No, that would be pretty cool for them. It's a unique place down there. It's a solid program. I mean, UCSB was top 25. So, I mean, anytime you get a top 25 weekend series win, I mean, it speaks pretty good. They just, they try and keep guys home from down there. I mean, some are going to leak out, the Aloy brothers at Arkansas, and maybe sneaking up to be the number 1 pick with Laviolette's struggles. But Ava Arquette at Oregon State, the shortstop, is also a Hawaiian. So he sneaks out. But, yeah, I mean, you lose game 1 to Tyler Bremner, nothing really there. I mean, he's pretty good. He'll be a top 10 pick from UC Santa Barbara.
And then one of our other season pick or series picks for this weekend, we had Troy going over to Louisiana to play the Raging Cajuns. Troy takes 2 out of 3 against Lafayette. It was a little bit of a little bit of a disaster for the Troy pitching staff on Sunday. I mean, you give up 18. Your hitters get you 14 back, so you end up only losing by four there, which is still impressive. But you know, I think the pitching is going to be kind of a question mark down the stretch for the Trojans. I mean, I think Skylar Meade's got to find those six, seven, eight guys he's going to roll out of the bullpen consistently, and they've got to compete. I mean, I think it's a lot of hit and miss right now. Most of the time, you're getting a 50-50 from a guy. So you kind of flip a coin when he steps on the mound, and it's like, what am I going to get? I think that's always kind of been a problem over there. Not a lot of people with a lot of consistency. A lot of good stuff though. I mean, you got multiple guys coming out of the pen throwing 95 plus for a mid major is always very impressive. But yeah, I mean, Troy takes game one and game two. And then strong offensive showing. You put up four in the first, and then you come back and give up first pitch in the bottom half is a solo shot, and you end up giving up another one. And then next thing you know, you're down 15-6 on the brink of getting run rolled, and then you come back and you score four in the top half of the next inning, and then you score three more, and Louisiana scores two more, and then scores another one, and then you're kind of just in a the pitching didn't hold it for him, and I'm really questioning what I'm going to see down the stretch from the staff in Troy.
Yeah, I think you got to figure it out. That's a mid-major pitching carousel we've seen. It's just kind of well, what am I getting this week, right? And you just gotta. I don't want to say have a quick hook, but at times when guys struggle, I mean, you got to get them out. I mean, a few bright spots. Noah Thigpen was good, 2 scoreless. Colby Frieda was good, 3 scoreless. Anytime you give up 18, I know it's a Sunday, but 18. You scored 14, like you said, but good fight from the offense. But I'm sure maybe the hitters weren't none too happy giving up 18 on the other side. So that's never good. At that point, you're just kind of grasping at straws, trying to find somebody to get an out, right? It certainly wasn't. Louisiana did not lay down. I wouldn't say Troy came in and straight up dominated them. The game ends on a controversial batter's interference on Friday night. Happened a couple times throughout the game. They didn't call it, and then they call it to end the game. So call it if you're going to call it early. If you're not going to call it early, maybe don't call it late. But it's Sunbelt umpires, so we've seen how that goes. But no, I mean, I think you're right. I think Troy's got a little bit to figure out how they're going to structure that pitching staff, who they're going to go to. Valinsky was not good, which is not something that you want to see. He's one of your better stuff arms. He kind of got lit up a little bit, but another bad weekend for the Cajuns. You can say they played okay, but at the end of the day, you lost the series, right? And the way that their season started, they can't really afford to lose series anymore. It's turning some of these tougher conference weekends into must wins, maybe must sweeps to get back in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see. Troy's got Coastal coming into town this week, which is going to be a must-watch series. I'm going to be there, boots on the ground. I'll be there for that one, and then yeah, like you said, I think ULL it's got Southern Miss in May, I believe, or late April. That's going to come down. I think that's going to be the it factor for Louisiana, even if they can turn it around a little bit now. I think that's going to be a must-win series for them. But I mean, that's 2 months in the future. I guess we'll see. It's not looking good though for the Cajuns. I mean, I'll agree with you on that. Georgia, the bats are there, but how long are the bats going to be able to keep up? I mean, the pitching staff has been a major question for the Bulldogs. I mean, you got a guy in Goldstein as an opener on weekends, which I don't know the whole dynamic for that, but he started 5 games and only had 6 appearances, so he's not being used out of the pen anywhere else, but he's only throwing an inning at a time. You got 9 different pitchers with starts. Some starters are pitching in midweeks out of the bullpen. And then your guy that you think is going to be there for you at the beginning of the year, big transfer from Alabama, Alton Davis, has a 4.11 batting average against a 13.9 ERA. In 11 innings, has given up 23 hits and 17 earned runs. I mean, that's just not what you want out of your number one portal addition. Supposed to be your guy coming in. He's even got to start this year too, so they kind of try to plug him in that role, see what they can do. I mean, you got a couple bright spots. McLaughlin, Radke, Stevens, Farley, and Curley have been pretty good. They all have sub 4 ERAs, but it's just been a horrible pitching staff. I mean, you're giving up 10 runs a game, and your hitters are somehow getting you out of it. But I don't know how long the bats are going to be able to keep up, especially when you get deep into SEC play.
Yeah, it's not been good, and I think the biggest issue for them is they're getting off the bad starts every single game. I mean, like you said, Goldstein's got 5 starts. He's got a 7.5. Right? Leighton Finley, he's got 4 starts. He's pitching at a 7.7. So they're just kind of maybe throwing stuff against the wall. I mean, Zach Harris, 3 starts. He's pitching at a 5. It just, I don't know. And I watched Finley come out on Sunday, and a lot of issues for the Georgia staff has maybe been a little around control and too many walks. And Finley was just pumping strikes, and Kentucky was just taking him bridge. I mean, I think his first 8 or 9 pitches were strikes, and it's 3-0. Kentucky just ambushed it and hit balls out of the park. So I don't know what they've got to do on the mound. Maybe burn some sage or something to on that pitching mound. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And like you said, it's not all bad. Curley's been good, and a couple of those other guys. But no, I mean, offensively, I mean, they might be, dare I say, the best offense in the country. I mean, certainly them in Tennessee are up there. I mean, they're hitting the ball out of the ballpark, doubles. I mean, homer. I mean, Zabrowski's got 12 already. Robbie Burnett's got 11. So I don't know. I mean, what are you, 19-1, 20-1, something like that? Or in 2, maybe have 2 losses. But it's just, I just don't know how. I think you're right. How long you can continue to get in a hole 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, before your offense even really gets a chance to settle in the game, right? Like you're not getting down 6-0 to Tennessee and coming back.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like
if you're down 6-0 to Liam Doyle, might as well just panic.
Right. The game's over. So like you gotta find. Maybe it's taking some of your guys maybe it's taking a Curley and throwing them and starting it, right? Just to give you a chance at the beginning, because the offense is going to score runs. Like you will score runs. This is an elite offense. So yeah, I'm not sure what direction they go to get it figured out. Maybe you got to try some of your back end guys at the beginning and just say, hey, give me what you can, just to get out of the gate. We've seen it before. Teams do that. But yeah, it's not been good on the mound, and it's been the opposite of that at the plate. They're absolutely not going to cover off the ball. So they just have to find some sort of consistency starting on the mound on the weekends. It's just for their offense's sake. I'm sure they're saying, please just, hold somebody under 10 for once, right?
I mean, yeah, hitters get tired in May. I mean, you got 200 plus at bats at that point. 150, 200 plus at bats at that point. I mean, your backs are tired, legs are tired. You're not going to put up 15 consistently, especially when you get into postseason play. I mean, you're facing everybody's best. I guess we'll see. I mean, some midweek games we were looking at, not too big of a slate. You got Ole Miss versus Southern Miss, DBU versus TCU, Texas versus UTSA, Miami versus FAU, and Arizona versus Kansas. Any of those games kind of just pop up at you? I know I'm excited to see Ole Miss, Southern Miss, obviously, but
yeah, that'll be a good one. DBU. Anytime you're playing, 2 teams from Texas, TCU's off to a good start. DBU's obviously off to a good start. Texas, keep the train rolling. Miami, tough weekend. You get swept by Wake Forest, and then you get greeted with Jamie Arnold and the boys coming in this weekend. Arizona's been playing really well recently. We'll see what they look like against Kansas, but yeah. Ole Miss got throttled Tuesday, right? last
Yeah,
Tuesday.
they got run rolled by South Alabama.
Yeah, South Alabama handed it to them. So, Southern Miss, in-state school, it means something to those kids. Uh, there's something about the state of Mississippi. Those kids seem to always stay home, and where they go matters to them. It's just one of those states. So yeah, that'll be a really good one. Looking forward to watch.
Yeah, I've got one more question here before we wrap up this episode for you. I think you might like this one. Is A&M this year's Florida?
Mm. Is A&M this year's Florida? Well, you see the comparisons, right?
Oh no,
You
it's
got
almost identical on paper.
you got you got the arguably the best player in the country. You got Cags. You got Laviolette. It's an experienced offense. Um, couple good bullpen arms. You got, you know, I'd say A&M's probably got better starting pitching than Florida had. Maybe so, man. Maybe so. I'm sure they don't want to be. They don't want to be that team that sneaks into the tournament, right?
I mean, you don't want to go to Omaha?
Going to Omaha would be cool, right? I guess that's the goal. I don't know, man. That's a good comp. I hadn't thought about that.
Do you
But I
think it's
mean,
one of those things where there's one or two bullpen guys that get turned into a Brandon Neely, and you're throwing 8 innings a week out of the pen?
maybe if that's what you got to do, coach, give me the rock,
No, I mean
right?
it worked out for O'Sullivan. I'm curious to see if maybe A&M takes the same kind of route. I mean, I know it's not good for guys' arms for any sake, but I mean, O'Sullivan ran Neely's arm to the dirt last year, especially the last month of the year. That guy was on the mound every game a starter wasn't pitching. I felt like that guy was pitching. So I
Yeah,
mean,
every time they needed him, he stepped up.
yeah,
He was different. That's for sure.
but yeah, no, I'm gonna be honestly, I'm curious to see how A&M folds out. You're getting into SEC play. Honestly, not the best start, but I guess we'll see. I mean, your RPI is gonna be good because you're playing the best teams in the country, obviously. So I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, is the committee gonna see them as A&M being as the number one team in the country preseason as a little bit of a stepping stool if they're maybe on the outside looking in kind of thing? So, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We got a big weekend coming up. We'll preview that later this week. But yeah, we're really excited, and we'll see you.